it's the isolation. If you don't have community, you're isolated and things start to fall apart. And then you don't feel hopeful and you have all these patterns. So the more you're invested in community, and it's not even about your own problems, it's about supporting others. And when you do good things for other people, you get energy back too.
Welcome to another episode of Sell Me This Podcast. This week, we're fortunate to host Denise Baril of the Grant Sherpa, and we dive into a ton of different stuff. In this episode, we talk about the value of community, the importance of struggle, and the necessity of connection. Give it a listen. Welcome to another episode of Sell Me This Podcast. Today, we are incredibly excited to have with us Denise Baril from the Grant Sherpa. Denise, welcome to the show, and it's so nice to have you.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I feel like this is a new season for us. So you're episode, I think, 3 of the new season, but I have been so excited to have you. I feel like since we met, and I'm trying to think where we met.
Gosh, a long time ago.
It feels like a long time ago, and I just always remember how supportive and how nice, and you kind of became a Sherpa to me a tiny bit in terms of the ecosystem. And if I would to make a list of people that I feel like have always been in my corner, even like since we met, and I didn't necessarily even deserve it, I feel like you would be on that list.
Why do you feel you don't deserve it? You're so awesome.
This is going to turn into a therapy session over here on this way. It's like, and when I was 5 years old, this happened. Denise, as we jump right into things, I would love for you to introduce yourself, tell our listeners a tiny bit about who you are, the work you do, and we'll just dive right into things.
So when I was 5, but I do want to just share. I grew up, my parents, I've been an entrepreneur in different jobs and different companies in my life. And my parents were entrepreneurs. They started one of the first home wine and beer making supply stores in Canada. And so I grew up at 6 going to work. It's like slave labor at 6. But it inspired me to kind of be an entrepreneur. And so when I created the Grant Sherpa in 2015, it was because I saw a gap in the ecosystem and a problem that people weren't able to find the right resources. And I stumbled into that place because the government was coming out with a new grant and they didn't have an ecosystem to get in front of. I had a business community. And so we did an event together and then I went, hey, there's money for that. And so it just kind of led me down to explore what is the pain point for companies in this space. And I discovered people hate grants. And people hate the process and don't understand it. And so that's kind of the first beginnings of how the Grant Sherpa started. I
feel like you're speaking directly to me. And I know you've received a couple of panicked phone calls from me being like, how do I understand X, Y, and Z? What is it about grants? And this is a big question. We're just going to dive right into it. What is it about grants that people find so intimidating?
I think they seem straightforward when you look at them. But there's a lot more to the architecture of what needs to go into a grant for them to be successful and get closed. So you can fill in a form, no problem. But what are the funders looking for? And those metrics change over time. So it becomes frustrating for companies when you don't understand what they're looking for or what's the mechanism behind this grant. And that's what the challenge is, right? And I call it a dance. Each grant has a different dance, and you have to learn that dance in order to be successful at it.
And so, like, if I'm just a regular business owner, and maybe I probably am just a regular business owner, but if I'm going to get some of these grants, like the normal process that I understand is I scour some sort of website on the government, download form, fill it out, cross my fingers, and hold my breath. How do I even understand? Like, already you're talking about things that I have zero insight into. Yeah. How do I even start to understand some of that?
So, bit of a process involved in that, but I think is education about where is the funding and why is it designed to support the ecosystem. And I always say to people, if there's an advisor that you can reach out to understand that grant, do that. Like, get involved, find out, or ask people in the ecosystem, have you applied for this? What did you do? What did you find out? And you'll find out that there's lots of tips and tricks in this process, and that you don't have to do it alone.
And it seems like in Alberta as well, and maybe even federally, there's more and more grant funding that's becoming available. How does someone figure out, outside of calling yourself, what they're eligible for, what's worth pursuing, what's not pursuing, what rocks to turn over, what ones to throw away?
Yeah. So a little bit of I'd say that the one thing that I find is there's lots of grants out there. There's an organization, the federal government created the Business Benefits Finder, which is an actual tool that you can use to search grants. The challenge is, I call it a rabbit hole because each grant that you look at, you read for 20 minutes to find out, at the end of it, you don't qualify. So finding out, like getting help sometimes to just figure out what the right list is for you helps because it advances you to move forward faster. But this is the challenge in the grant space. When I started 10 years ago, even to this point today, the gap still exists. So it's a little bit of you have to invest the time. And for startups, they might have the time as they start, but as you grow, what typically happens is you're wearing so many hats in a business. How can you juggle them all and do the full-time work in the grants? Like it becomes overwhelming for people. And so, you can get help, you can get support. There's lots of advisors, lots of support in the ecosystem if you have time to spend it there. But then when your life gets too busy or you're missing out on funding or you're not closing funding, then you want to tap into resources that can actually support you in being more effective.
I guess that makes sense. Like 100% of zero is still zero if you're not getting any of that funding. And I know that it's there to propel our ecosystem, to propel some of the incredible organizations that are here. You've mentioned ecosystem already a few times. And I believe, and I'll continue to pump you up during our conversation, but I believe that you're a key part and pillar of our ecosystem here in Calgary. I'm going to start off with kind of maybe the loaded question, but what makes Calgary so special? Because I feel like there's something different here. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I just posted something on LinkedIn this morning because yesterday I had these magic moments with some of my clients and some of the supports of the ecosystem, like Alberta Innovates and the advisors that are there, the IRAP advisors, the federal funders in innovation, Platform Calgary, people like, George Damien, who's doing this incredible cap raise thing. These nuggets are all there to help our companies. And we have so many resources. I work with an organization called Startup Canada. They're fabulous. They came and did a conference here last year. Yeah. And they do conferences across Canada. They attracted, I think, over 3,000 people to their conference. And they were wowed by the turnout. They had all these volunteers in our ecosystem from, the peer guidance, like the Jade Alberts of the crew and the software developers and the Neeraj Guptas who are doing IP. They had all these experts who were willing to share hours and time to support people that were attending. And when they ended up that conference, they said this was one of the best conferences we ever had. But they said it's because you've got established resources and experts who are willing to show up, share their knowledge for free, to give somebody a hand up. And I think if you agree, I don't know, maybe it's the cowboy spirit that we have in Calgary or something, but we have such a supportive, collaborative ecosystem that everyone's willing to lend everybody a hand. And even people like during the Stampede, there's people that I met from Toronto that were visiting and looking at, do we set up office here? And they said, I can't believe, I talked to one person and they say, come with me. I'll introduce you to 3 other people that you need to meet while you're here. And then someone else takes my arm and says, you need to meet these 3 people. And I think it's that spirit of collaborative support that creates this environment. And I think it's a secret sauce that we have here.
I agree 100%. And I'm not born and raised Calgarian, but I feel like I've probably been long enough here that I can wear that badge somewhat.
Well, I'm wearing the Calgary Flames jersey now.
Yeah, there you go. What I want to ask what you had before. So
the Winnipeg Jets.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So I'm blue on the inside and red on the outside.
Okay, I feel like I don't know what the analogy is for that, but it's welcome to the right side of the fence there. But I think that there's something, even if you look back to the original kind of we'll say the original oil boom, where it was kind of to some degree Calgary against the world. Yeah. And you had this really gritty, really resourceful group and kind of fabric that defined our city. And I don't think that's gone away.
No.
And I love exactly the scenario that you're saying. You share what you're doing, you share what you're building, and there is a bunch of people not with hands out saying, hey, how can you help me? Yeah. But saying, hey, let me introduce you to this person. Let me help you accelerate. Let me connect you.
Well, and isn't that exactly what you're doing in your business? Do you want to talk a little bit about how you're using that collaborative spirit to kind of help companies in the tech space?
Yeah, I think that in the same token around the work that you're doing on the ecosystem side, I think we're helping on the private company side where there's just so much noise, so many options, so much opportunity out there, but trying to find your way through it is near impossible. And so, to put it simply, our narrative is we help primarily non-technical business leaders make better technology decisions. And that starts with connecting them with the right people. It starts with connecting with them, I say with an adult in the room that can really help them navigate that world. And
it's like a different language.
It is.
Like, so we have, and this is just on the funding side, I'll just talk about the differences. So when I have non-technical founders who approach grants, they have a harder time closing funding because they don't know how to talk the narrative. When they go to pitch to raise capital, they can spin circles around everybody else. And the reverse is true for the founders who are technical. They can close the R&D dollars faster, but they have a heck of a time raising capital. And so that's where you come into that play to help navigate. It's like its own language.
It is, and I think that the ability to be able to kind of see both sides of the fence, the ability to translate becomes really important, but also the ability to navigate and just know the right people. Because there is no playbook right now.
No.
That's the terrifying thing and the exciting thing all at the same time, is that there is no path that says, okay, first A, then B, then C, then D. And with some of the new technologies that are coming out, with some of the security requirements, with some of the geopolitical pressures in the world, there's no correct path forward. So context becomes king.
Yeah. And I also think that, well, and we can probably have a debate about this one.
I love it.
It's like everyone thinks like AI is my solution and just give me AI tools and then I'm good to go. Is that like, what is your voice on that? Because I think like we're going at this wrong. Like everyone thinks, well, I'm just going to use AI for this and then everything's going to solve my problems and I'm going to be competitive. But there's more to it than that, like than just jumping in and getting a tool.
Well, I feel like any time we've ever led with the technology, we've gone down the wrong path.
Yeah.
I think that AI is an incredibly powerful tool, but it's a tool.
Right.
And if you ever go to build a house and you say, you know what, I'm going to make sure I bring my screwdriver with me.
Yeah.
The first time you come across a nail, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. So true.
And I think AI is exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's a powerful tool that is becoming more and more and more powerful. But if you don't have a functional understanding of what you're trying to deliver, if you don't have a functional understanding of the problem you're trying to solve or what you're trying to amplify, you can actually make things even worse by throwing AI on top of it.
Yeah. And then the other piece is also you can jump into something, but I also find, and especially in larger companies, getting people, you can use a tool, but getting the engagement of your team to buy in is usually the bigger problem, right? Because they push back when they say, well, what is this for? Why are we using this? We liked our old way. Why are you making us use this? And so it's that process you have to kind of think through.
100%. And so, first of all, I'm going to give you an award. Ian McDonald, and I'll give him a shout out, challenged me before we recorded our episode at the end of last season, where he's like, I'm going to interview you the whole time. He's like, you're going to be on your heels. And I feel like you're the first person to successfully start making me feel like I'm the guest on the podcast.
Yeah, but it's great because and I think it's just there's so much synergy between you and I in terms of what we do and how 100%. We serve this market, right? Of innovators.
But to answer your question, in terms of that change management, I love to tell the story. There's an organization that we work with that needed a new CRM. So not an AI solution. There's an AI component, obviously, that we're starting to kind of fold in now. But I got a call from their president one night saying, "Hey, we've bought 3 entities. We're looking to buy a new CRM. We have presentations from here's the three big guys that are pitching. Which one do we pick?" And my answer was none of them because we haven't done any of this legwork yet.
Yes.
And so we actually ended up pausing the whole project, doing a ton of discovery and consultation from the end user up.
Interesting.
Understanding how they work, understanding their current state, and it wasn't necessarily to maintain all of those processes, but it was to effectively communicate their starting point, where they were going, and the gap in between. And I feel like everyone always forgets about the starting point.
Yeah, and I did interesting related to this is I often when I'm meeting founders to talk about what do you need, what are you trying to do, and what do you want to go now, and how do you want to fund that next development of technology. And they usually, some of them, especially the non-technical ones, will say, "Hey, Denise, I'm so upset. I spent $40,000 on this technology to get my business moving. And I found out after the fact that it's not going to do the things that I need to do. So now I have to hire a different contractor. So, for me, I did actually a webinar once with a software developer because I was so frustrated with non-technical founders not getting in front of the right people or knowing how to vet them. And so that's a gap.
It's a huge challenge. And, especially as you get higher up in the stakes, the salespeople get really good.
Totally.
If I'm trying to buy a Salesforce or a Microsoft or a Google, it's not some kid out of school that's figuring out what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, this is the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
And so if you're investing in these enterprise solutions, you have the A team that is trying to pull you into their corner of the world. And whether it's a small SaaS application, or I guess 40 grand isn't a small SaaS application, but it's depending on kind of what that use case and narrative is, it's really important that you actually understand what you need before you go shopping.
Yeah. And the other thing, it also makes me think about having the right funding system, right? Because everyone thinks, like, when people come to me for grants, they're thinking, I just want free money and the government should give me money just to kind of try my idea. And it's not like that, because grants come from taxpayer dollars. And so they have to be really good ideas and really structured. But I find that people are underfunded. And so much like that foundation you talked about, is if they're not properly funded, the minute something goes wrong, the crack in that foundation shows up. And then they have to stop what they're doing, or, and it causes all kinds of stress for founders. Actually, a couple of years ago, and I went through the stress myself. We all have stress. So this is another topic of how to manage stress. But we spiral. We start to spiral when the money starts to leak out of our company, and people start to change. It affects their families. It affects their business partners. It affects their investors. And so I had an episode where I started to stress out. And Christmas is actually a really good time for people to get stressed because there's so much going on. And I learned the hard way, I had to process my own issues because I thought I was fine. I've got it under control, and I wasn't.
So how do you do that? And I know it's different for everyone, but I think that this is I've talked to a lot of founders as well, and even myself being a founder, there is a roller coaster of emotions as you're growing and building a business. And so if you were giving advice to yourself in that exact phase of your life, what would you say?
Well, my process, and everyone's different. My process was, my partner said to me, you need to put your phone down and take time out and do things for you. And I said, I already do things for me. And he said, no, you do not. And so put your phone down, don't do business, and figure out what that is. And so I went on this journey, and I started to actually connect to things that I enjoyed. Like I go to Starbucks and pick a few books and a notepad and read books and figure out which one I wanted to buy. And all of a sudden my energy started changing. And then I started meditating, and everyone does different things, but I started to listen to podcasts like, Deepak Chopra, as we were talking about earlier, and just listening to what's another way of seeing the world than the world that's in my head right now. Because it's like I don't know about yours, but there's like this wheel that's constantly going in my head, and meditation is the way to slow it down and start to listen to the voices above that help me think bigger. And all of a sudden, for me, that process started to unfold all these ideas and energy about what I could do or where I could go. And my health started improving just by doing those things.
And so if you were talking to a founder, because I think that the gut reaction to that is saying, okay, I really like that idealistically, but I have this list of 40,000 things to do.
Yeah.
How do I prioritize that? And I think, the maths, right? Because I think that you're able to output way more if you're in the right headspace.
Yeah.
But how do you prioritize that, or do you just do it?
Well, I think we push ourselves sometimes, and again, this is human nature, but we sometimes get to a point where we're so stressed that we have to figure out what we can do that's going to get us out of this dark space. And different names, overwhelmed, stressed, mental health, whatever we want to call it. But for me, it was about, I figured out a system, and I created a course on abundance, and I invited a bunch of women, and I just thought, I'm not going to do this on my own. Yeah. And so I asked a bunch of women, do you want to do this together? And we came together as a group, and and discovered what is abundance, what's stress, what's things in our life. And it created this amazing energy where we learned together. And that was really cool.
That is super neat. And is that
Yeah.
group, do you still keep in contact with a lot of those folks?
Oh, yeah. So we did the first group, and I brought in, this is interesting, one of my 9 lives. And, people you meet in your journey. My friend Mary, she's like a sleep therapist and whatnot. And sleep is tied to some of the things that as entrepreneurs, we're not sleeping, we're not eating, we're doing these things. So my friend Mary, I called her and I said, hey, Mary, I have an idea. And I've done this to her before where she's like, you're calling me out of the blue for some
what would you
idea.
like?
What's the catch? But she jumped in 100% and said, you know what, this is really cool. So the two of us came up with this idea and brought these women together. And it was over the charts great. And these were, I'm going to tell you, these were super successful women. Yeah. But we all carry things in our life and we need a safe space. And entrepreneurs, as a general rule, we're leading a company, we're leading a team, we're leading in the ecosystem, we're leading here and there. We don't have a safe space to just be us and be, ourselves and who we are outside of all those roles or hats that we wear. So it was fabulous. And we did that. And then they said, we want a second group. So we created a second level, living abundance, to kind of help people set goals and then get support along the journey.
That's incredible. And so, what is it about community that's so special? Because we've talked about Calgary, but I know this is one of the, I don't want to say core philosophies or values, but this is something that I know you just believe so strongly in.
Yeah.
But what is it about community that is important?
It's just it's everything. I grew up. I'm the youngest of 9. So I grew up in a community, right? So I live community from the time I was born. But for me, it's just there's energy, right? And it's the isolation. If you don't have community, you're isolated, and things start to fall apart, and then you don't feel hopeful, and you have all these patterns. So the more you're invested in community, and it's not even about your own problems, it's about supporting others. And when you do good things for other people, you get energy back too. So you're serving. Like this year, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but there's so much going on for people. And this year has been super stressful for so many people in so many areas of my life. And I make chicken soup for people when they're having a tough time or something traumatic happens or they lose someone or whatever. I've made more chicken soup this year than I've made in my lifetime. But you know what? The gift of doing that has built this incredible energy to let people know they're not alone and that we're there to support them in whatever way we can, right? And I think, everything begins and ends with community. And if you're not connected, if you're not supporting others, and it's not just about taking for yourself, but it's much like you said, it's about giving these resources and helping people in whatever way we can. It has a ripple effect. And we just don't know when that ripple effect will end or where it's going to start or come back to us, but it does.
Do you think people are craving community right now?
Hugely. Yeah. Where do you see it?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I think, and this is I think people are lonely as a general,
Yes.
I think you have, and this is, obviously getting a little bit theoretical, but, from a social standpoint, everyone's living in their phones and, even some of the relationships that are now starting to be forged with AI that are replacing a lot of the important human connections, right?
Yeah.
I think that there's power in being a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. And I think community can create that in a supportive way. And if I can start to find outlets for anything that I want without friction, that's actually a bad thing, in my opinion, not a good thing.
Yeah.
I believe that work from home has been a good thing from a flexibility standpoint and an equity standpoint. But also, I think it leaves people craving for wanting to be part of something. And I think that, I'm not a scientist, but I've done enough reading to be dangerous that people are built to be together and not separated and isolated. And so I think people are lonely.
Yeah. And I think, and just back to entrepreneurs, we're very kind of work. And I'm like that too. And so we have to find ways beyond work to have fun.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's how you start to build community. It's not about how am I going to do that? Do I just show up? Do I have a, hey buddy, show up at my party? Whatever. But you've got to find ways to jump into community in different ways of your life.
100%, and I think that that's where even kind of balance and partnerships and everything become really important. And I'll use my wife as an example, who I think is an incredible partner to me, where she pushes, like, her and I are very similar in a lot of ways, but very different. And so I'm probably wired the same way as you, where I think that I would, barely come up for air, and I just work all the time. And I think that the balance that we have, I think, pushes each other in a really positive way, but it kind of creates that connection to other people too. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I think opposites attract, right?
Yeah.
Same with my partner. He's really good at kind of setting boundaries for me, helping me pull away. And he's not in business. Like, so he's retired and he's doing his own gig, but we kind of separate and kind of our beings as individuals and separate that work thing so that we have that space to just chill and be ourselves. And it's nourishing, right?
100%. And then as part of the larger community as well, right? Like, I do agree where it's, you hear so many stories, and not to always bring it back to kind of moving the needle forward, but even of inspiration, of recharging, of, finding different connections, not in the people sense, but in terms of ideas and everything, when you're not living in that one bubble all of the time.
So true.
And so finding an opportunity to be connected with different groups actually could nourish some of the other groups as well.
Yeah. And I got into hiking a few years back, and so I have different hiking groups.
That's where we met.
With.
Okay, let's come back.
Right.
Yes.
That's where we met. That was Ptarmigan Cirque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We met on an IT hike.
Where some people, I'm not going to mention their names, in the ecosystem ran into bears.
There was definitely a bear scare.
A bear scare on that one. Anyways, that was totally fun. But I think doing that, or, the other thing that really inspires me is my kids. Like, I don't know, do you have kids?
We have a daughter, and she's just under 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So mine are older, and I got them out hiking. And oh my gosh, they're so inspirational. So, you know what, there's so many people and often people think that, inspiration is someone you look up to or someone who's successful in business. And I often now turn to my kids and listen to what they're doing, what they're learning, and I'm inspired by them. Like, I know my kids, like, my youngest son built his own computer, and he saved the money, built the parts. It's the second computer he's built. An incredible job. So I was so proud of him. And the same week, my other son said, "Mom, guess what? I'm on a bucket list item off. I've done a bucket list item." I'm like, "What is it?" "I'm jumping out of a plane with some other guys. We're doing parachuting." I'm like, "How cool is that?" Yeah. And so, there's so much inspiration around us in the different people in our life. And it just doesn't have to be about work or business. And I think being open to that allows us to kind of absorb so much more than we would if we're just, reading an author or looking at, who's the latest successful business owner in the ecosystem.
And I think, before the show we were talking about reading, right? And I'm going to be embarrassed to admit this on the show here, but I read a ton, probably way more than I should, but I guess there's no maximum level of reading you should do, but most of it is very intentional reading. So I want to learn about a theory. It's very scientific. It's usually to kind of grow or improve business myself, and occasionally I'll throw in a book like the one I was talking about, where the new Dan Brown book of
that's super cool.
But it's fun because then you make different connections and also get to unplug a little bit in different ways.
Okay, I have a really crazy story, and you're going to say, "Oh, Denise."
I'm ready for it.
But this is that deep thinking, like when you get to that meditative space. So I was doing that assignment where I was kind of going to chapters, and I picked out a David Brooks book. I don't know, it's about connections and relationships, and I love he's a U.S. He's a U.S. guy that does interviews and whatever, and he's a public figure, fabulous perspective on things. Anyways, I'm sitting there reading this David Brooks book, and there's a quote in the book that I thought, oh, this is really interesting. And I wrote it down in a journal. So 3 months later, I'm having a business meeting. One of the guys called me from Toronto, said, "Hey, Denise, I want to meet with you to see if we can help you with grants, blah, 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 but I'm going to invite my Calgary business partner to join." I'm like, so cool, right? So I meet them, and this guy that I meet is like really smart and an engineer and doing really cool things. Anyways, so we have a few meetings. We meet in person, off the charts, brilliant. His mind is just amazing ideas and innovation, blah, blah, blah. He sends me an email a week later, and he says, I just picked up this David Brooks book. And he says, our connection has allowed me to see the world like this. And the exact same quote that I had wrote in my notebook 3 months before, he recited to me. And I'm like, isn't that the coolest thing
That's
ever?
super cool. Very
I'm woohooing crazy.
It's okay.
But I think it's when you're open and you start to put out to the world, what is it that you want to attract? What are the things that are important? I think you start to pull that out in the people around you.
100%. And I think that I like the woohoo, and it's a safe place. We can talk about whatever we want in here. It's but I do agree that there's a lot of intent, like serendipity around how some of these things happen. There's some things that there's a podcast. I'm trying to remember the podcast it is How I Built This with Guy Raz. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yeah, cool.
It was an old, I think it's still going on. It's an NPR podcast, and so they'll interview different business owners around their journey in building these different businesses. And he always ends with, how much of your success would you attribute to skill, or how much would you attribute to like luck or serendipity?
Oh, interesting.
And I'd say almost a disproportionate amount say, you know what, like if these 43 things didn't line up, I think we'd be at a very different space.
Yeah. And then from an intuitive perspective, I look at it like this. And this is kind of an analogy. I say God comes to me sometimes, and God has different forms for different people. But I say God usually comes to me, it hits me on the head with a 2x4 to see if I'll listen. And I typically don't listen the first time. Hits me again. Yeah. And it's different things that happen in your business. And it's oftentimes when I need to do a pivot or something. Yeah. And then the third time I listen, right? But it's like you're on the edge of you got to make a decision or else, right?
You have some head injuries from the 2x4.
But I think there's messages out there that we need, signs that we need to pay attention to, and it's just being able to slow ourselves down enough to listen.
Yeah. Well, and I think that goes back to what you were saying at the beginning, which is, how do you create that space to be able to slow down enough, right? And I think that. You work with a ton of founders, and I'm sure that you see the, I don't want to call it a pandemic because I'm sure that word probably brings on different connotations now, but there is a challenge with people just running themselves into the ground.
Yeah, totally. And this is, so, and back to, I talked about those series, those events, groups that I started gathering in terms of people to talk about abundance. I created a course called Your Secret Abundance Code. And it was designed because I see people for money. Everyone's wanting money, and they come to me for money and need more money, right? Yeah. But I see that people are, it's not just about money, right? And the crisis that they're having is not just about money. It's about what's going on in my life. Yeah. And that abundance and funding. And sometimes they're inhibited because they have a value about what money means when they were a child, or they have some sort of difficult relationship with money, or they push money away. And I see this a lot in funders. And so for me, it's trying to help them figure out, like, how do you build this in your life, and what are you doing, and that you'll get there. Yeah. It's just, what's that balance that you need, and what is abundance? Like, it's not just about the money. And when they start to reframe that, all of a sudden the doors and energy opens to them when they stop fixating on it being the money.
Well, and so even myself, like I received some coaching around the idea of kind of the abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset. And it's very easy as you're building a business to look at the constraints that are very real and kind of start to change the way that you're playing the game because you're afraid of either running out of money, you're afraid of shortening your runway, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, I haven't taken your abundance course, but having that abundance mindset, I imagine probably opens you up to unlock, to actually take the bets you need to take in order to succeed.
Yeah. And I just questioned you when you're talking about that. What was that moment for you when you said, hey, I needed to check in with someone else to kind of help me see things differently? So
I'm so I have a mentor / kind of good friend that has been with me the whole way through as I've been kind of building out the business here. And he's been really good about checking in with me, probably more than I reach out for help. Yeah. And so we'll go out for beers, probably once every couple of weeks kind of thing, and kind of check in. And it's a positive challenging where it's like, hey, I need in a way, from someone that is trusted, someone that is in a position to give that feedback, but also has been through it himself before.
Yeah. Isn't it cool? Like, wouldn't it be a good challenge if we had people go out and find 3 people who you could go for lunch with or a coffee with or a catch up with a drink and just tap into their mindset, right? And I think that would really help people see the world a little different and get the energy that they need to get through the ups and downs in life.
Well, I think so. And there's so much, and the value of different perspectives is key. There's a concept called the boardroom table or the kitchen boardroom.
Yeah.
I'm probably butchering the actual verbiage here, but the idea of, as a person, and even if you don't have an official board, how do you create yourself a small group of people that are trusted, that may not have a specific vested interest, that can guide you through some of those challenging times, because sometimes it is hard to separate yourself from the day-to-day.
Yeah. I have one of my clients, Prab Paul. I don't know if you know him, Trace Cost or whatever. He's so wonderful.
Yeah.
But we get together for, just a random lunch and just have incredible conversations. Yeah. It's not about his business. It's not about my business. Yeah. And we just have these other level conversations and ask questions. And it's so wonderful. I can hardly wait. I look forward to those meetings. And tomorrow I'm meeting Jade Alberts. You know Jade? Yeah. We get together at Matador Pizza. It's just a wonderful place where
I feel like every time I meet Jade, and I don't know him anywhere as well as no, but he's given me, I think, the best burger recommendation. To this day,
it's all about the food.
My most successful LinkedIn post, and this is an unfortunate thing to admit, on the internet, has been about burgers. So we put out a bunch of content around business, which is the best burger in Calgary, has performed the best.
But it's about having those, those conversations with people who make you think bigger, or you can have random conversations just about nothing. Yeah. And it's so engaging and motivating.
100%. And I also feel incredibly fortunate. Like I said, I don't know Jade that well, but in my interactions with him, he's a phenomenal person. But having the people in the ecosystem that are willing to respond to the email, that are the LinkedIn message, the phone call, and say, hey, you know what, I'd love to meet for a coffee.
Well, I just got to tell you, so I'm a big fan, as I mentioned, with the Calgary Flames.
Yeah. Now you are.
Now I am. And so we went to, I used to be part of a golf tournament, and I used to have Jade on my team, and then he was so good. I was so bad, and he was so good. So you need to arm your team when you're doing these. Yeah, so we balanced each other out. But one year, he won the golf bag with the Flames logo all over it, right? And he didn't tell me he won it. And he invited me for lunch and said, I've got a secret in the car for you. And I said, did you get a new dog? What did you get? And he opened up his trunk and said, I won this. I'm like, oh my God, are you ever lucky? And he said, it's for you. And I'm like, what? He said, you're such a fan. Here you go. And so that was one of those moments when I was off the charts a fan of Jade, just because just that kind spirit, right? Of being conscious of, and I just love that bag, and I always meet the Oilers fans on the golf course when I use it. But it's just some of those things that they're genuine, authentic, kind things that people do that just creates a spark in your life.
Yeah, well, and I think the idea of generosity, not necessarily in the idea of giving golf bags, but in giving time and giving opinions, and I think that there's such a spirit of generosity in our community here.
Yeah, and I think these little nuggets create trust.
Yeah.
Right? So you build trust in those relationships over time, and it's the trust that allows you to do amazing things, right? And carve out those long-term relationships. So people always say, oh, Denise, how did you get here? How did you do this? Can I copy it or whatever? And I'm like, well, it started 20 years ago when I did this. And then I did this. And do you get that? When people think you're an overnight success, you're doing this incredible podcast, you're doing all these things. Was that an overnight success?
I'll let you know when I arrive at being a success. But no, it's been years of ups and downs and sideways and forwards. And I still think I'm in pursuit of being a success. Right. I'm incredibly fortunate with what we've built so far, but I think we still have a long runway. But to your point, lots of questions, and it's really easy to be an armchair quarterback. And so I was watching a football game last night, and and you see these these NFL folks, and I don't want to give away the date, but there was a Kansas City Chiefs game, and I'm not a fan, but I had a very big fantasy game on the line. Okay. And there's literally a throw at the end that make or break I would win the week.
Right.
And it's like a 60-yard throw down the field. I can't believe you couldn't make that. I can't even throw the ball that far. And here I am just giving all this critique off to the sidelines. And I think that's kind of like business sometimes, where you get to see the highlight reel.
Yeah.
You don't see the 6 practices, the 15 years of 2-a-days before that.
Yeah.
And no one kind of sees how it's made, and I think it's really important that we continue to open up that dialogue and share those conversations.
And I think it's important to let the startups, especially in our ecosystem, know that it's a journey.
Yeah.
And even though it's always a race to kind of get to the next level, get to the next thing, but they need to know that it takes time and it's okay.
Well, and I think that the startup ecosystem has been so glorified as well, right? I think it's a really good thing because you've seen the stats around entrepreneurship, how it's plummeted over the last 30 years. Mm-hmm. It's great to see a renewed interest in some of the entrepreneurism, some of the kind of more resourcefulness, the founding these organizations and bringing these ideas to life. But it isn't it is hard. And it's not easy. It can be, I still say this is the best job I've ever had. I was a bad employee to start off with, but it doesn't happen in 36 minutes.
No, yeah.
And it's fun to build it, but it definitely is a build, not an arrival.
It's a long game.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and just back to community, is that we have to, along with building our business, have a community of fans around us who get the good and the bad of who we are, right? That they're there for us regardless. Like when you're driving down the Deerfoot and your car breaks down in the middle of the night, who do you call?
Yeah.
You need your 5 friends, right?
Yeah.
And who are they? And even if you don't have them today, you just need to start building those relationships to build up that 5.
So if you were talking to, if I was a brand new founder and I'm coming to you for advice, and not necessarily on grants, but more so in terms of how to participate in this community, what words of wisdom would you have?
Just show up.
I like it.
You gotta. So I think the part is being part of the community, tapping into the ecosystem players, the events. Platform Calgary has incredible events. Startup TNT, get to know the people in the ecosystem and ask to be connected to different resources or different things and show up, right? There's so much out there for us, but it's just being part of something or volunteering. That's the other way to get involved. So if you're not connected and you don't know people, ask to volunteer at events. And that way you get to meet people all the time. And even I was at a TNT event last week, and I sat beside a guy who was more of an introvert, a really smart engineer, and he's afraid of networking. He just talked about some of the challenges of, he's an introvert and whatever. But we had this incredible conversation and took it to the next level. And, send me his resume because I might know someone who could hire him. It was these incredible, but you have to take that step to show up and find a way to get involved in community.
I love it. And are there, you mentioned a couple things, and we'll try to put some of those in the show notes too. Right. So you mentioned the startup TNTs. Yeah. I know Platform hosts a lot of events.
Yes.
Are there great places that people should be looking to participate differently?
Yeah. Well, and again, it depends on where you're at. But I work a lot in the tech and innovation ecosystem. So Alberta Innovates has wonderful resources and events. Innovate Calgary has events at the university. They're free to attend, and you get access to different ideas, different stages of activities in your business. There's all kinds of things. Calgary Economic Development, I think, had a list of some of these things that are going on. They're a great resource, right? So you just got to jump in, find your starting place, and then start asking, where can I show up? Where can I get connected?
And I think that to build on what you said as well, not not walking into an event and be like, who can give me a job, who can do this, what can I get, but what can I offer, what can I learn, just talk to people.
Yeah, get to know people. I thought the funniest exercise, we're going to try this, but I remember going to an event and someone said, Denise, there's all these people sitting around the table. They're highfalutin people, and they said, you need to bring them together. They're all, showing up for this one cause. They don't know each other, blah, blah, blah. What can you do? So I did an icebreaker where I said, okay, I want you to, tell me your name, tell me what your company is, and then I want to tell me what your cartoon character is. If you could be one cartoon character, who would it be and why? And so it instantly changed the room. So question to you, Keith.
Oh, my goodness.
If you were to be a cartoon character, who would you be and why?
Cartoon character, who would I be and why? On the spot, I would be Snoopy.
Oh, that's a good one. I love Snoopy. Tell me why.
I don't know. He feels like a friendly guy, you know.
Aw.
I think that it's what popped into my head. I don't have too much justification, but I feel like Snoopy seems like a guy that I would be.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah. What about you?
Bugs Bunny.
Bugs Bunny?
Yeah, he's been my standby for a long time. I like him because he's playful.
Yeah.
But he always gets his way in the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's pretty confident that he'll land it, and he enjoys life.
I love it. Okay, you've done this before.
Oh yeah, I've totally done it before.
Before we wrap up today, I feel like we're gonna tease something exciting that's coming up, and so I don't know how much I can tease or not. So I'll let you do all the teasing. I hear you're working on something exciting.
Yeah, so, I've been doing this for about 10 years and sitting back, looking at how do we, so I have this demand in helping people, and I want to help more people. But the model that we're using currently is more for the hands-on fractional. Yeah. And so we're looking at a system that will be a subscription-based model that will allow us to help the whole funnel from startups to scale-ups. And so we're building out a tool that can support companies and can work with the ecosystem to magnify how things get done for companies.
That sounds amazing. If people want to learn more about what we've talked about, they want to get on a wait list so they can sign up as soon as you release your big news. What's the best way to get in touch with you? What's the best way to get connected?
Yeah, LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah. Connect on LinkedIn, and that's probably the best way.
Amazing. Well, I feel like we could go back and forth and talk for another 12 hours here. This has been an absolute pleasure, Denise.
Yeah,
thank you so much for coming on the show, and I hope you come on again soon. I feel like we'll have to do a big launch event with you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Take care.
You too. If you've made it this far, like and subscribe on YouTube, or follow and leave a review on your favorite podcasting platform so you don't miss any future episodes.